In 1898, Herbert George Wells wrote a story entitled War of the Worlds. The story, narrated by an anonymous journalist, tells the story of Martians invading the Earth. The original story was well received but quickly forgotten. On October 30th, 1938, just before America's involvement in World War II and meant as a Halloween treat, the story was broadcast in the form of a play on a popular American radio station. Despite the fact that several announcements were made assuring people that it was just a play, mass panic ensued. People ran from their homes, stole cars, and some people were even injured before the panic-stricken people realized the truth. In 1933, a water bailiff in Loch Ness, Scotland, named Alex Campbell, coined the term monster to describe a mysterious snake-like creature seen in the depths of Loch Ness. In the years since then, thousands of people claim to have seen the creature. Some even have photographs alleging to depict the creature swimming in the loch. None of these photos has ever been authenticated, and no proof of the Loch Ness monster has ever been found. Despite this, the legend continues. Stories of hairy ape-like creatures known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch have been reportedly seen for centuries. These elusive creatures are said to be part man, part ape, and emit a hideous odor and a piercing scream. Eyewitnesses have claimed encounters, even going so far as to claim physical contact with the creature. Yet no quantifiable evidence has ever been found. As children, many of us lay in terror of the monster under our beds. We usually outgrew this fear when we realize that it's probably something much less scary than we thought. But try to imagine how frightened you would have been if your parents had told you the monster under the bed were real. Would you have been able to sleep in that bed alone ever again? As adults, we know the monster under the bed isn't real. We're confident of this because our parents assured us of this by checking under our beds, making us look under there to show us it wasn't real. We believed them because we trusted them and they provided proof. And yet for many of us, when we questioned the existence of God, our parents, our teachers, and the clergy assured us that it was real, without a shred of evidence to back it up. We believed them not because of evidence, but because we trusted them, and because so many others believed it. What people believe is influenced by many factors, but the most convincing influence is belief shared by large numbers of people. Their minds find it easier to accept a concept if it's validated by popular belief. They rationalize outlandish beliefs by holding the false idea that if many people believe something, it must be true. Belief in God is an example of this type of false, fixed belief. People reason that despite the total lack of empirical objective evidence for God, he must be real because mankind had believed in him for hundreds of thousands of years. Things that don't qualify as true evidence are accepted by the believer as evidence because they desire to validate their beliefs. In the case of belief in God, people find comfort in the idea that when we die, we will continue to live on somehow, forever, and that all the nasty things we suffered through as humans will be erased and we'll live in a kind of paradise forever. This desire to maintain this belief is so strong in people that they'll fight to maintain it, even in the face of evidence to the contrary. They refuse to let go of this comforting fantasy because the alternative to wink out into non-existence frightens them too much. But consider this. Do you remember what it was like before you were born? Of course not. No one does. When we die, we'll just wink out into nothingness. We won't exist. That means no pain, no fear, no desire, nothing. Just peace forever. That's a very comforting thought to me. But try as I might, I can't seem to get this idea across to people who ask me why I'm an atheist. The unfortunate truth is, human beings will believe almost anything, as long as enough people believe it too. They believe in things in the absence of evidence, against common sense, and even to the point of harming one another. They'll go on believing in foolish concepts like God, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot till they overcome their fear of the unknown, or until the evidence is so overwhelming that they're forced to see the truth. Those of us who've broken the bonds of ignorance and superstition, opting to embrace reality, owe it to our fellow man to do everything in our power to help those who are still struggling. If we're going to usher in a new age of rational, compassionate, intelligent humanity, we must foster open dialogue, research, and most importantly, education. Ignorance is our greatest enemy. We have a great opportunity to show the world there's a life without superstition and ignorance. But we can't accomplish this by fighting and bickering with believers. We can only serve to make ourselves seem petty and childish. We must instead encourage believers to read, think, and communicate with us. Knowledge really is power. Let's all try to make this a world where our children and their children will never have to bow down to the superstitions of the past. Let's put God, the Loch Ness Monster, and Bigfoot where they belong, forever.